I want to talk about the moment of awakening I had. This is 25 years ago in the year 2000. And I have referred to it and I have written a memo, maybe 20 pages memo when it happened. It's a major event and I want to capture why it happened, how it happened, what's the impact of it, how do I live with that. And I may talk about the major awakening and the mini awakening or mini awakening in the series. Maybe 4 or 5 videos, I don't know at this moment. But instead of talking the huge amount of all the history, I just want to go a little bit at a time. So as a first video, why I did what I did, that was to go visit Vipassana for 10 days, meditating 10 days. You can tell I was dedicated and determined. Why? I was 52 years old. Right, 52. And before that, I had gone through studies and experience in Zen, mainly, but spiritual stuff. While I was working, I kept this interest going on. It's almost like half is work and the half is the other. And half for the work was basically to keep it going, the interest that I had, which is actually a transformation of organization. And I didn't know quite well at the time, but this stuff, spiritual stuff, is the transformation of myself. Why did I have that? Only one or two explanations I can think of is that when I was little, my grandmother, who was living in the same house, I noticed that she was afraid of death. And I felt sorry about it. I was maybe 8 or 6 or 10 years old. And it faded away. She passed away at age 92 or something. And when I was at age 17 or 18, I read Pensée, Pascal, thought pieces. And I found myself just reading it. He's a Christian, but talking about how minuscule our existence is. And I remember still, when I read the sentence, and I pictured myself in this whole limitless size of the universe, this tiny bit of the earth, and I'm this tiny bit of the individual. And I was just couldn't figure out. I was in the darkness for a while, for 2 days or so. Couldn't resolve it. Later, I visited the church, meeting the priest, just privately, just knocking the door and trying to get some sense. And then I read this and that. But it's forgotten because of my young age and the relationship, the women, sports, friends, and the work. Lots of things to do. So this thought was going backward in my mind. But at the age 20 or so, I started to do a little meditation, but didn't go anywhere. And when I was at age 30 or so, when I was at Stanford for business school, because I had this engineering background, but I thought that's not enough, I want to explore, so I went to the business school. And someone asked me what it's then, and I couldn't answer. And I'm Japanese? Oh, that's interesting, I couldn't answer. And the last day of me leaving, before the day I left Stanford back to Japan, I went to the Printers Inc. bookstore and picked up one book, Daisetsu Suzuki, on Japanese Zen and Japanese culture. I picked up and I was just surprised what's in there. So that's the background. And since then, I got into studying Daisetsu, not so much on the technicality of the books he wrote, but this little book I have shared. 100 times I read this book. This is Shimura a journalist, I believe, was meeting with Daisetsu and talking, and this was so easy to read. The Zen is a little bit far-fetched and too difficult, but this kept me going to bridge the gap of what is Zen and what is that darkness, and how the spiritual stuff that was kept within myself. And I studied, and that's how I get to the point of attending the Vipassana.